All right, fellas. Welcome to another episode of Married Divorced Dads. I am your host, King Midas, aka Matt Walker, and tonight we finally have it, y'all. The Husbands Roundtable. Right, we are here, episode 5. We've been waiting for this moment, and we've got some excellent husbands here who are all in slightly different phases in their lives. We've got families. They're going to be just talking about their experiences, what's changed the most since being married, and really giving us some great insight. So I'm extremely excited to have all of my guests this evening, as well as this episode is sponsored by, as y'all see this wonderful shirt, Dads Are Dope. This is sponsored by the fatherhoodcollection.com. It's an Etsy store. You can grab your own fatherhood dad t-shirt, fatherhoodcollection.com, and use code Midas Touch for 20% off. You're welcome. 20%, not that little 10%, 20% off. Yes. I know we're getting sponsorships, y'all. I don't know what's happening, but God is good. Amen.
Amen.
And with that being said, we're going to roll right into having the gentlemen introduce themselves. We're going to start off with Brother Nick Nice, who is a father. He is a husband, and I'll let him tell you the rest. Go ahead, Brother Nick.
I mean, what else is there? You know what I mean? You know, father, husband. I mean,
Right.
what else is there
For
when you're wearing the role, right? Aside from being the host of the BLC Pod, marketing, digital, and brand stuff like that. Content a little bit. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Huh?
I said a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Aside from that, you mentioned I'm a husband, so I've been married for over 20 years now. I got a 4-year-old son named Sir, you know what I mean? And father and husband. So, I mean, appreciate you for having me on, bro. Am I missing anything? Is there anything else? You would have me go first. It's my first time on the pod. Am I missing anything else?
Because you have so much experience. I knew you'd just be a natural, as you were. So
okay. Hey, listen, man, I'm here to serve, my brother. I'm just here to do my job.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. But no, you can share with us real quick, what is the one thing that changed the most since you've been married? However you want to interpret that.
The one thing that, I don't know, bro. Like, it's just such a hard question because the one thing that changed the most, so much changes over 20 years, bro. Like, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet necessarily like we do today, right? We didn't have all the distractions. We didn't have social media. You know what I mean? You didn't have, just so many different things happening in the world as it is, right? As far as world events, geopolitics, etc. I don't know, man. I think the one thing that maybe I can say changed for me was being a little bit more grounded, finding a way to, within the relationship, weather all that to where we are as close to who we are without being affected by as much of what I just mentioned. You know what I'm saying? So that's why if you ask me what changed, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like low key, I'm proud of the things that didn't change for real, given all the things that, can kind of distract you or pull you apart or pull you in different directions. So a lot has changed around us, but I think for us, we've kind of maintained some semblance of who we were when we first met, but obviously with evolution and growth. So, hopefully
Y'all
it answers it.
Do y'all understand why he's here? There was a question before. If you weren't sure, now you understand why this man is here. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And we'll definitely come back to that. That was a great response. Absolutely. Brother Kelvin, please go ahead and jump in.
Wonderful. The name is Kelvin Harris, aka Agent Kelvin Harris. Father, husband, DMV, local realtor, DMV plus Pennsylvania, I might add. I've been married for 15 years this past summer. 2 kids, 14 and 12. So, of course, marriage 15 years, kid 14 years. You guys know how that is. And I would say, the thing that changed the most was probably your life's mission and purpose. Because when you're solo, you're just a single lion out in the jungle. It's all about you, what you want to do, how you want to do it. Your mission, your kill mission is different versus when you're married, you got other people to take care of, other mouths to feed, other visions to keep in consideration. So, for me, the biggest thing was, the mission changed. And also as an individual, like Brother Nick said, you're a little bit more grounded and you have a little bit more purpose, or a lot more purpose, in life. So that was it for me.
Nice. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brother Chancey.
Okay. How you doing, fellas? Everybody
Doing
good?
well,
Everybody
doing
good?
well.
All
Good. So
good,
I'm
all
just
good.
so
Mhm.
I'm Chancey Williams. I am a professional painter. I've been married for about almost 8 years now, coming up. I'm a father of two boys. And so with that question, I believe what changed in my marriage over the past 7 years is the structure. Like the structure, the routine. It was just us before, and then now we have two little ones. And the like I said, with how Kevin said, like the mission, I think that the mission had definitely changed. Like I said, it was just us before. So now our main focus is just our kids. So, and I do think that when you have those kids, you kind of can lose yourself in that, because all you think about now is just the protection, and making sure that everybody is safe and well in your household. So I believe that's what changed in my marriage.
Thank you for that. And because your kids are 11 months and 5 years old, right?
Almost 5, yes. Yep.
Yeah, almost five. You're at a very pivotal point in that marriage, parenthood dynamic. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. Here.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Brother
Uh,
Jason,
Yes, yes. Hey, good evening. Good evening, fellas. How you
good
guys
evening.
doing? Jason Cannon. Just Jason. We can go with that. But let's see. I have been, let's see, a father for 16 years. I've been happily married for 25. So I might be
Wow.
the OG on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of our story. I will say it's always a work in progress. I will also say that for us, in terms of what changed, that's everybody said it's interesting, and that's certainly true. I would say in answering that, the thing we expect the most is the change. So I've always been one of those cats that always say like, hey, the only thing you can count on is change. Things will always change. It's very rare that anything stays the same. So we're usually pretty aware whether it's a stage in development of the kids. Um,
Chancy, can you go on mute real quick? It's just, we
yeah,
can't hear it. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say that whether it's different stage of life where the kids are at. Yeah, I think there was a conversation we had offline about difference between boys and girls. And how that's just completely different games, even if you're raising them at the same age, which I am. I've got twin boy-girl twins at 13, and then I got a 16-year-old daughter. So I'm raising both, and I see it's not even. Yeah, there's a racket. Yeah, it's a court, but it's a completely different game. I might as well be playing tennis and badminton. This is different stuff, and the only thing I can count on from day to day is that something's going to change.
Yeah.
Whatever was working perfectly fine a week and a half ago is probably not going to work this week. So, and I would put that with marriage as well. Different phases. How we were when we were in our 20s versus the 30s, now 40s, and knocking on the door, not too fast, but knocking on the door of 50. We are every step of the way. Things are changing with her, things are changing with me, and
Mhm.
the change is the only thing we can count on. So,
Okay, thank you for that. That's a really good perspective as well. And I think the one thing that I've gotten from all of your submissions is that change is inevitable. You have the opportunity to grow from it. So growth is optional, right? And then how you all are navigating that individually is what is working for your individual relationships. And I think that's really awesome to hear and see, because what I what I've learned more and more is that there are not as many positive examples as I once thought that we had about what marriage can look like. And the fact that all four of yours look completely different, I think is a blessing, because it allows people to understand that there isn't one cookie cutter way. And sometimes I think we also get kind of like lost in that. But we can have that conversation another time. I would say for myself, 44, married once for 10 years, currently remarried or been divorced for 5 years, currently remarried for about 50 days. I would say,
Congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah,
I appreciate,
Yes,
congrats.
sir.
appreciate that. Thank y'all. Thank you.
First 50 days.
I would say the biggest change is being remarried and how it's completely different than my first marriage, and how I thought that being married before gave me like a heads up on being married. You know what I mean? On marriage, obviously, and I was married for 10 years, right? And I think that maybe with some of like the simple things like living with somebody again and whatnot, that part is easy. But I would say being remarried, it's a completely different experience, and it's kind of thrown me for a loop in that way, and I love it. And it's just like I've just been like, wow, this is yeah, this is
Yeah.
what's supposed to be going on. You know what I mean? And so it's been really a blessing, and so I've just been really happy about it. So God is good. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, was there any one thing that you all were taught about marriage, a rule that you may have been given, like don't go to bed angry, or things like that that y'all felt, or that you all have felt that you had to break because it didn't work for your individual marriages? Anyone can jump in. Was there any
Um,
rule that you were like, go ahead?
um, I would say, well, when I did premarital counseling, they did tell us that never go to bed mad at each other, and I get that. But sometimes you can actually lose sight of that, where you do go to bed mad at each other sometimes, and you trying to get yourself together at night, and knowing that you're on both sides of the bed, and there's no communication, there's no touching, there's none of that, and it's like, wow, this is very uncomfortable. So
Mm,
trying to pretty much do a 180 as in talking to her, trying to feel okay. Well, this I did this wrong. You did that wrong. Let's come together and not be so awkward. That can really take a toll. So in our premature time of being married, yes, that can happen. But I feel like over time you kind of get a hold of that, and it doesn't happen as much as it did before.
that's good. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's one of those like every father, uncle, friend's gonna tell you that, pastor, don't go to bed angry. And you can practice that all day, especially in the honeymoon phase and the years. But I've been in year 10, 12, 13, 14, now 15, and there's been times it's like, you know what? I know I'm a little upset, and I'm giving her time and space. So you have to figure out like the rhythm that works for you.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't say I've ever went to bed pissed. I've probably been pretty upset, or you wake up and then you get upset. When
Mhm.
you're in bed. I've gotten upset off of a dream. Like, did you know what you did in my dream? I will come for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
But one of the things I remember someone telling me was like, communication is always big, right? But
Mhm.
like a father or uncle will always tell you about the finances piece and always have your own little stash. Um, and that works, but then like you can have it, but you really can't be selfish with it, because if it's a need for it, it's really like you got a stash you think is for you,
Mhm.
but medical emergency pops up,
Mhm.
or this crazy bill pops up, you got to dip into that stash. So you just can't hide it and have your mattress money. But then again, it goes back to not being honest, open, and transparent with your spouse. So you have to kind of balance, like, okay, I got a stash, I know you got a stash. We don't need to know what we have in our stash, but we know that we're covered in case, hey, I got $5,000 in the house somewhere, or I got $2,000 in the house. If anything
Okay.
happens, we we got an emergency fund, uh, versus hiding money from your spouse, because that leads to mistrust.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense.
yeah,
This is really good. These are interesting examples, like
yeah,
different than what I expected. I appreciate that.
yeah. So
Like you
I
look
keep
like you
a
had
I keep
something
a
on.
digital stash. She can see it. She's dipped into it and put it back, and then
Yeah.
I got a stash right in my file cabinet. If I'm not home and something goes down, hey, go in the file cabinet, Look in
It's
this
the
file.
virtual file cabinet, not the one in his home.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We don't want a
The virtual
problem.
file cabinet. Well, you got to
But he is
find the
also
file cabinet.
strapped, so he's the wrong one.
That too.
I got you. I got you, brother. I know.
You're looking out for you.
You look like you were gonna jump in and say something. What were your thoughts?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Are you good?
You know, it's funny. While you were saying that, bro, my inclination was to say that the rule that I broke was probably that there were rules in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I want to say one of the things that's helped me the most is being very thoughtful and mindful of the things that we allow to penetrate our relationship. Right. And a lot of times, like, we'll get passed down stuff, like even rules. Now, I actually personally agree with the, you know, not going to bed angry part, because to me, you get to redefine your own rules in your own marriage. Right.
For sure.
And so for me, I think communication was very big for me. Like, I'm a communicative ass nigga. I don't want to have to feel like I can't go to sleep because we can't resolve an issue. I remember the first time I realized I was in love with Shorty it was like we were still dating. We were in college and we were arguing. It was like maybe not arguing, like we had argued and we weren't talking. And it was like 1:30 in the morning. I couldn't go to sleep. And so I was like, fuck it. I picked up the phone and I called her. And she lived like around the corner. So then after we worked things out, we took our asses to bed and we went about our business. And I feel like that kind of set the tone in terms of the need to make sure that we can communicate through whatever. So for me, that became a rule. And then intimacy was also important. And I think if you can communicate well enough, then you can kind of cultivate consistent, you know, chemistry, I think, or at least, you know, enough to make sure that you're satisfied in that way. So I don't know, you know what I mean? And then I think also too, like coming into the relationship, there were some rules we had to break, like as if, you know, sometimes parents want to have too much say in your, you know, relationship early on, especially financially. So the rule could be, oh, the father's supposed to do this. And then with that comes his say in terms of how you're building your household. And I'm like, from day one, it's like, nah, I respect you, but we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I hear you in terms of, I think the idea of rules, but I do also think it's super important for each person or couple to kind of define for themselves those rules and be very mindful that some of the shit we get passed down ain't really for us, either in terms of the couple itself or the time that we're in. So we got to just be real mindful of these rules. And so I guess because I've always been a black sheep, I've always kind of been like, whoa. What rules are these? Who's trying to impose them and why? You know, and don't get me wrong, I live by rules now. I mean, you got to be able to still, you know, live in this world and all that. But I'm saying when it comes to your relationship, or at least my relationship, I was just very mindful of these rules and felt that we early on was intentional about defining it for ourselves, even if we weren't on the same page initially in that definition process. You know what I'm saying? That's what I got.
It's kind of interesting on that one because
Definition process. I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
I was just gonna say because I agree to that. You do have to leave room to adjust or add rules along the way, but I don't know that I would necessarily subscribe. And I'm not saying I don't want to put words in Nick's mouth. Like, you know, there are rules. I think there's some ground rules that whether they're complete deal breakers for you or there's something that would be considered pretty serious. I think that some of that is said, some of it's unsaid, like, you know, but I think there's definitely some where, you know, that's like a point of no return. And I mean, I think we could probably think about 3 off the rip, right? I mean, you're not about to hit me, right? And I'm not about to hit her, right? Let's be very open with that. Like, I think that would be a deal breaker for many people. I think, you know, infidelity, that could be its own podcast right there for some folks, right? But I mean, you know, there's a couple of them where I think there's probably rule, and it just depends. Like, what's your, you know, whether you walk with, you know, if you have a Christian walk, and maybe there's going to be a lot of them that are biblically based. But you know, I just think that there's definitely some stuff that probably, if it's ambiguous, you probably want to discuss, like, hey, this is a rule from me and you need to know that before we even get into an argument, you need to know if this and this happen, we got a big problem, probably irreconcilable problem, right? So,
can I get a point of clarification for Jason real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Because so when I heard rule, at least from the 2 examples that were given, I kind of felt like it was one of those things like wives' tales or things that people pass down jovially or whatever, right? I would separate that from, let's say, commitments or, legally binding, whatever, right? Do you like, right? Am I off on that? Because I feel like
No, you're
No,
right.
no, you were.
like when people say a rule of thumb, right? It's not something that's
Yeah.
binding. I
Okay.
feel like when you talk about marriage, you start from the commitment that you make before God or whatever. You mentioned that earlier, or legally, right? So I think that fits in a separate box. But when I'm talking about like the rules, I'm talking about more of the things that people kind of in tradition or, colloquially or playfully or whatever. That's
I
how
got you.
I was looking at it. Now, do you
Okay.
agree or disagree in terms of like if we're talking about separating it from rules versus commitments or obligations or legally? You know what I mean? That's where I was kind of coming from, just to clarify too.
Okay, you're talking like how we operate, right? How we gonna operate as a relationship?
Yeah.
That's basically where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can get with that. Yeah, those
Okay.
are separate. I would agree with you there.
Okay. I appreciate that. And so, with that being said, then, do you all feel like, because it really sounds, especially with you, Nick, that you all are like defining your own relationships. So has it been that way throughout the entire marriage? Like, when you look at how you've been able to balance being a dad, being a husband, your career, and then the intimacy piece, right? Because that's one of the biggest pieces that, especially for men who aren't married and who are looking at marriage, considering it, one thing that they always hear is that the intimacy gets lost. That's something that you hear a lot from men, from women. And so how do you all feel like you have been able to manage that, to balance it over the years?
Oof.
I know. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I can go first if y'all want me to. I don't mind.
Go for it.
Well, whoever wants to jump in.
Because listen, bro, like you got to prioritize what you prioritize, fam.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From day one, like if you know there are certain things that's important to you, you just have to prioritize it and communicate it, and sometimes consistently, right? And be willing to figure out, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the work goes into like when we talk about vetting and finding the right person, right? And hopefully you're building those type of healthy habits during the dating process before you get to the point of marriage. Life happens, of course. We're not talking about things happening. What I'm saying is, though, outside of those things, if you what you prioritize will show up in your actions, what you prioritize. And sometimes we as men may not prioritize it, even though we may say it, right? Like sometimes prioritizing might be, you know what? I know these are the triggers that will turn her on. If that means cleaning up a little extra or whatever, if you prioritize it, right? Because to me, priority means, hey, so you do what you got to do, especially if you can make it romantic or whatever. I just kind of feel like, yeah, we say we want these things, but if we're prioritizing it, our actions, our words, or whatever will show that, right? Sometimes life happens and maybe we prioritize other things. So for me, over the course of 20 years, bro, like that was something very early on that I knew was going to be a priority for me. If you wanted me to be more in the house than outside the house, then I had to feel a certain type of way about being inside the house, right? And so that's got to be communicated, because you can't expect the other person to meet whatever expectations that you have without communicating it. And unfortunately, sometimes we're not as communicative as we might think, we want to be. And on top of that, both people just expect the other person to just meet these expectations. So what I'm saying is that you got to prioritize whatever it is that is in your relationship. And then I think through that, you'll do the things, or you'll move in such a way that the outcomes that you want may more than likely work out. Will that always be the case? Absolutely not. But if you understand that emotions are important, if you understand communication is important, if you're investing in that, then why aren't you able then to parlay that literally into the things that you prioritize? So for me, that's something from 21 Jump Street. There were a couple of things that I prioritize, and I'm fortunate that, a lot of those things has maintained throughout the years. And I just think as men, we just got to do a better job of communicating the things that we prioritize and then enforcing the actions that hopefully lead to the outcomes that we want.
But you know what? You can communicate sometimes all you want. We speak different languages, especially on things where we are emotional, and especially on things that are important to us versus things that are important to women. So I hear you, and I really I want to agree, but I'm just thinking on times where that has not necessarily worked out, where one of our needs were not necessarily being met. It was because the other person was hearing blah, 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 and the other person was hearing blee, blee, blee.
Yeah.
We're saying the same things. We are very logical, very very analytical people, but we're from different planets.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta push back, Jason. I'm sorry. I
Go
gotta
for it,
push
go
back
for
a little. Because so we have a running joke, right? We call it womanese, right?
Okay,
The idea that I understand that we speak different languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you understand that, then whose job is it to learn the other language in order to get the other person to hear where you're coming from?
It's both
Yeah,
people's job.
both gotta learn. Yeah.
It's both.
I hear y'all. I'm okay, yes, right? But you said as the
That's the
guy,
right
we may
answer.
get
However,
I'm saying that you said as the guy, we get into our emotions too, right? But then we also claim to be logical at the same time, right? So
Correct.
my thought process is that if two people are emotional, which is what I think you're indicating, then yes, people aren't going to be able to hear each other. But at what point does the logical person who has all the virtue of being more logical figure out the language to speak to either come back around to then communicate? It doesn't have to happen right then and there. So what I'm saying is, at what point in time do we do that? Right? It's cool that we're both emotional.
At what point in time
that's
do
a
you learn your language?
slippery slope. Oh, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. What I'm getting from Nick is, at what point in time, as the husband, as the one with the logic,
leader,
quote, unquote, the leader,
like, all
like,
that.
at what point do we learn our partner's language so that we're able to speak it and communicate it? So you don't have like I'm
Okay.
looking at it as we shouldn't be having the same communication breakdowns that we had in year 5 and year 15.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm getting from what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's push it a little bit, right?
Okay.
If you're constantly the logical one and you're constantly one translating womanese, to use your words, and I totally agree with that term, love that, I'm going to use it again. If you're constantly the one that's doing that, at what point does that mean that you're really being taken advantage of?
Oh, I don't look at it that way at all.
Well,
At all.
okay.
Okay, so
If
let's
you're
talk
constantly the
Yeah,
one
I mean,
that's
I
obviously
dig it.
translating, and you're the one that actually shows, takes it to a higher level and says, I'm going to be logical with this, when the other person doesn't necessarily do that,
Okay, I'll
I'm
just say this.
saying at a certain
back
point,
in
you're
rat
going
race.
to feel like you're getting taken advantage of, right? Because you're having to take that higher ground every single. And as a leader, I don't necessarily see that as necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that there could be some who might think you're
Oh,
going
I
to take
think
advantage
that-
of there.
I'll say this
Yeah.
now, bounce past it. So I'll just say this quickly. I think we all got virtues, bro. I accept the fact that that might be something I have to wear as a man. I do, personally. I'm not going to bitch about it. I don't have to have a baby. I don't have to have a period. There's a lot of things that I don't have to do as a man that I gladly, thankfully accept if I got to be the one that got to be a little bit more logical and patient sometimes. I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's just what
I
it
didn't mean to
comes
get
with the job.
dramatic about it, but I'm just
Right.
saying, like as men, there are certain things that we benefit from that we
That's
got to be
true.
willing to pay the cost. And if being the logical one is one of them, I'm cool with that. Ching, ring me out, sir. Here's a
You
tip
speak.
on it. You know?
Yeah. And I think you have to be willing to accept it. Like if you don't accept that part, then it's like, at what point is somebody coming back to me and worrying about how to communicate to me? And so
Yeah.
I get both sides of the coin, and I probably argued on both sides of those coins, because there's been times I went to my wife, I'm like, all right, I feel like I've been climbing Mount Rushmore, and I only asked for 1 or 2 things, and I'm still trying to get it. You asked for all of this,
You want a car.
and I've been
I just want a
climbing,
little
working,
hip, though.
developing, and then and I asked for a couple things, and here we are back again at the couple things I've been asking for. So I think you have to learn how to speak each other's language and communicate in each other's language, and not really contemplate in your own language. You
Yeah.
have to like take yourself out of your place, put yourself in their space, and say, okay, how is she receiving this from me?
Yeah.
And how is she interpreting, and vice versa.
Can I just say one thing to what you just said, Kelvin?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how you just mentioned, like, you provide certain things and then you're equating that to what she's not providing, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that we as men sometimes, you know how to say, like, if we understand women value different things, if the things that we do for them, we think they're supposed to value. But what if that's not the thing that they actually value?
No, those are the things that you're supposed to do. The things,
Right.
Like,
But they may
especially-
not value that thing, which may
Right.
then not translate to that person that's the value you're giving to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
what if, is it possible that the other areas, that's what I was saying, like in terms of speaking womanese, right? Because some women they may say they want the traditional stuff, but that may not be the case. So it's up to us to kind of really see through their actions what stimuli works for them, right? And sometimes we think that we're doing all this stuff, like working hard, providing and stuff. They just may want you just choke them up one time. You know what I'm saying? They may want something, and you may not even think that because you're thinking, hey, I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And she's thinking like, this motherfucker, she might make an argument just because she wants you to choke her, right? But you're not even thinking about that because you're being a good dude, you're handling your business, and you're thinking, why is she not responding to me? That's what I'm saying when I say about speaking womenese sometimes, bro. Does that make sense or not? Am I tripping?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I had that experience like in the last few weeks where my wife's like, wow, I never heard you. Like, I would have never known if you had never said anything or vocalized it the way you said it.
Yeah.
I was like, I hear you. And then, like, you know, I was very happy man for, you know, still going.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, and just recently, she made a comment like, you know, if you just put your foot down, you know, and sometimes as men, you know, I'm a big black man. I'm 6'4", 215. You know, my wife she's pretty tall. She's 5'10", 5'11". But to most women, I'm a big, intimidating figure. So I'm always conscious of how I show up in spaces. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, man, banging your hands, putting your fist down, the black aggressive man narrative. You know, you try to avoid those things, but sometimes you gotta pull it out, and they be like, "Oh, okay, I got you. I ain't gonna mess with you, right?" And so this was maybe like 36 hours ago. We just had this conversation. She was like, "Yeah, sometimes you just gotta tell me like, shut up." I'm like,
you see how they be asking for it like that?
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
It is very crazy.
It is because, and I only say it's crazy because, and we're all around the same age. You know what I'm saying? We're all similar. And I feel like we came up in a time where that wasn't necessarily encouraged in America anyway.
Facts.
Putting your foot down thing was being kind of pushed out, where it was just like, no, you don't treat women like that. You treat them like this, and you're kind to them because they were oppressed in this other way or whatever. Yeah. And some may feel that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then a lot of times you get in a relationship, you get married, and sometimes the woman is asking you to please put your foot down, show up, have the structure. I need to be within this, like, set, you know, do the leadership thing. And it's interesting because it's funny how a lot of times it goes against some of the examples, you know what I'm saying, that we were shown. Yeah. But I think it does mean something. Nancy, you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna add something right quick. So I think with that, you know, we date and then we get married, but I think we kind of play it safe for a little while. And then even with that, we also evolve. Like I said, every 5 to 10 years we evolve. So we have things that we may kind of just blurt out or say or do, not knowing that we're doing it. And then that person may like that. And then it's like, wait, I didn't know you like that because now you're evolving, you're changing. So I get that. I get that part.
Yeah. It's a real thing. Nick, go ahead. I see it written all over you. I see it. Yeah, you got something to say about it.
Come on. Which part, man? There was so much, bro. There was so much.
In terms of that providing structure that we were referring to a second ago.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that again, my brother. You know,
yes, I know.
Bro, we grew up at a time where taming the shrew was a thing, right? I'm about to say something that might sound a little controversial, but I think we listen to women too much, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying we should not listen to women.
I'm going to peel that onion a little bit.
I'm going to. I'm going to. I think it's part of the womanese, bro. Like, people will say, let's move women to the side. I think most of us say we want stuff that we really haven't defined for ourselves if that's what we want. We all want to be, ever since we were kids, want to fit in. So we want to be the perfect person. Of course, we don't like this freaky thing that we're not supposed to like. So we present in a certain type of way. So many people have no clue what the fuck they really want for real. And unfortunately, I feel like with women, they have been more manipulated when you think about like their insecurities, when you think about makeup, when you think about pop culture, when you think about the way they've been objectified. Like, so in a lot of ways, you're asking someone to weed through all that and be able to clearly articulate what it is they want consistently over time while having a relationship with us as men, especially depending on how we move. For many of them who are dealing out of trauma from some of the experiences that we have. So yes, they like one thing. tall guy, mysterious guy who's going to probably dog them out. And then we wonder why they're having that relationship when there's really nice guys who would treat them and put them on pedestals. So what I'm saying is that oftentimes when it comes to dating and these conversations, and even when a guy is dating a girl in particular, do you know how many times women will say, I won't do this and I won't do that and I won't do that, and then they do all of those things, my brother? So what I'm saying is that, yeah, you know what I mean? Those of us who have maneuvered around, we don't listen. Because I think they even say scientifically listening to people's 2, 5, 10% of communication, body language, their actions, like even the verbal communication that we're doing right now, some people would say, only accounts for a small percentage of the truth. And what I'm saying is, that's why I say I don't listen to women, because I just think, unfortunately, they are more likely and inclined to be less tapped in with their truth, especially in the dating and the relationship space, than men are. You get what I'm saying? And unfortunately, I think a lot of men out here are having a hard time because they're hearing one thing and they're seeing something else and they're confused, right?
Yeah.
But for me, maybe because I'm an old school player, we were never confused because we understood that, yeah, you want to listen to the important things, like no, you want to listen.
Right.
You want,
Okay.
I don't want to, I'm not feeling you, all the key rejection signs and all that. Definitely listen to all that. You know, if she got political opinions, her body, her choice, all those things. But what I'm saying is, when you're talking about discerning whether or not she's really into you, what her plans are, what she really likes for real, what she's willing to settle for, all those things, I just think, we as men got to assert ourselves and at least read through the bullshit well enough to have an accurate depiction of the women that we're courting and eventually are marrying. Because some of us are falling for the bullshit. And then we're also discontent, right? Because we don't know. We can't tell the difference. And so I'm just saying, yeah, is that qualified for you, Jason? I was being a little podcasty. I'm going to stand on.
I was going to leave that one alone.
Jason, has the onion been peeled?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Left for him, like right here. So
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and with Nick, with everything that you said, I think the biggest piece that, I've kind of taken away, because, we've had this conversation a billion times at this point, it's that I feel like there has been, or there was a very large influence in terms of women's opinions of how men should act, move, treat women in every way, shape, or form. And instead of men, maybe the change should have been, or the transition should have been, listen to women more, right? But still stand in your frame as a man, being able to take whole leadership, all the things that we always talk about and we hear about a lot of times now.
Yeah.
Some of the characteristics even of toxic masculinity. I think, to an extent, that some of that has been overblown, right?
Yes.
Not to say that there aren't points that can be taken and that we can learn from, because we were doing things that we didn't recognize how they affected women.
Yeah.
But to say in certain instances that any way that a man shows up that comes off, as
toxic.
too masculine,
Yeah.
toxic, I think it goes too far.
I got a question for Nick. So you seem very, very stern in your beliefs about, how you are about marriage. How does that work for you?
It's working.
I mean, it's been 20 years.
I get that it's working,
Yeah.
but he seems as like it's stamped of how he is, how he may talk to his his wife or whatever like that. But how does that work for you in your relationship with her?
Like which part?
So pretty much on your beliefs on on like the woman knees and all
You
that
really
stuff.
put your foot down the way you do?
How
you
does
talk?
that work for you?
Do you live your rap?
You know what? I'll say.
Talking a lot of shit tonight. Do you
No, I
live
feel
your rap?
that. That's dead ass. That's dead ass. Well, what's funny about the internet? You know what I mean? She sees all of my content. She's able to watch all of it, right? So even if I was just talking some shit, I'm sure she'd be able to check me on it after the fact. But I'll say this though. For me, honestly, bro, like in 20 years, we cultivated this together. You dig what I'm saying? Like nothing I did, she would not have approved of or whatever. I honestly kind of feel like I chose her because she made me aspire to be a better version of myself. You get what I'm saying? And so like she had 3 older brothers, bro. Her father was a pastor. He was an alpha, 6'4" football playing, dark skinned brother. You dig what I'm saying? This wasn't light work, my G. You dig what I'm saying? So over the years, 25, I guess, 20 or so, we built this thing together, bro. So like for me, I feel I speak confidently because if you notice, I'm not telling nobody how to do what they're doing. I'm the guy who said break whatever rule, right? I feel like each of us have the same ability to be as confident in terms of our relationships, who we are and who we choose. And so maybe that's what you're seeing now. Also a little bit of podcasting, right? But ultimately I'm excited. Like life is amazing, bro. Like we somehow cultivated to still like each other after 20 years. So what you're really getting is not just me. It's the confidence of the relationship itself. It's the confidence of the fact that like, we're in a great space after 20 years, which to me, I'm excited about. So that's what you're really hearing more than anything, but not like trying to tell nobody else how to do what they do to a certain extent. Hopefully that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, I got
But
you.
in truth, and what's so crazy, I got to say this. What I will tell you is throughout the entire thing, I did take responsibility, bro, for the womanese. I made sure I communicated through and through. You know what I'm saying? If we had to go to counseling because she had to hear it differently, like that was important to me. Like I prioritized making sure that we were on the same page. And with her not being as communicative, I had to do more of the heavy lifting in that. You know what I'm saying? I gladfully accepted that responsibility because I knew God entrusted me with the ability to look at life differently, to see things differently. I'm a little unorthodox. Part of the reason why she chose me was because she wanted to be led. These women, a lot of them say one thing, bro, but they want something else. You get what I'm saying? So what she was attracted to was that energy that she saw from her father. You don't become a pastor, you're not a leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, so she had a choice along the way. So she knew what she was rocking with, right? You know what I'm saying? So outside of that, we just kind of built from there, if that makes sense.
Even saying what you just said about she saw examples, right? Me, like I only had one example, and he's now deceased. So she saw, her father, so her grandparents, her grandfathers. Now that I don't have that example, trying to uphold that standard to her, it can get hard at times because I'm like, I don't have that blueprint to sit here and ask questions about how do you do this, how you do that. So with that, that's kind of also a issue that I have as far as I'm trying to be a man for her, but I still don't have those tools that I actually need.
Why do you say that?
What year are you right now?
I'm sorry?
How many years have you been married?
It's coming up on 8.
8? Okay.
I was asking, why do you say you don't have those tools?
Well, I want to say
That's a good
tools,
question too.
but just going
Like
back to the
examples.
blueprint and asking, how was I when I was a child? What did you do for me? How did this happen? How did that happen? So I can't go back and refer to anybody about that because, that's what I didn't grow up on. But with her, she saw those examples and seen that, and then now she with me, a guy that yes, I have a family, I have 2 boys, but I'm still trying to learn how to raise these boys. But I don't have that blueprint to go back onto and ask questions on how to do it.
Yeah. And I would say there's really no blueprint to marriage, right? So it's like every day is like a puzzle. Like you're trying to you figure it out. It's just like parenting. It doesn't come with a manual. I
Yeah.
come from my father's divorced and remarried. My mother's been married 3 times. No, she can marry no more. I have a say in that. My wife's parents have been divorced. Her father's been divorced twice. So we both come from broken homes. Neither of us have a blueprint. So we have to create our blueprint, like for us, like what works
Yeah.
for us, right?
Yeah.
So my father and my wife and most of my friends wouldn't gel with my wife, right? I have another friend. I said there's only one man in this world for you, and you are married to him, and I really believe that. And so,
I believe that too.
we create our own blueprint. We figure it out as we go, and I think it boils down to the communication piece. My wife is a communicator. Me, she's much better at communication than me. I might communicate to myself, but I grew up in that culture where men keep their feelings to themselves. That's
Yeah.
how I was taught, right? And it's still, trying to tell your spouse how you feel. We were taught that's a sign of weakness, and so just getting out of that, because that softens them up, but also allows us to be vulnerable and allows the space to come in for us to create that blueprint.
Yeah.
So the key to the blueprint is you, really.
Yeah.
And in her.
And commit. I mean, it's really, you got to commit to it. So what no one says you have to subscribe to any. One of the things I actually, we just met, Nick, but one of the things I can already tell is that like you live and you put both feet down on your blueprint. I think as men we have to do that. Whatever is your playbook, that's your playbook.
Yep.
And you're gonna make up pages as you go along. You have to. When you get to years, 8, 10, 15, 20, 25.
You're writing a long story.
You have created the book. I mean, it's happened, but and do we second guess ourselves? Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course we do, but we don't necessarily. I don't know that I don't know that I necessarily promote that I don't know when I don't know what I'm doing. I don't necessarily tell my wife I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Right. But do you necessarily?
What I'm doing,
Okay, so Jason, let me ask you.
Yeah, go for it.
But do you have a village, or do you? I don't know your parents. I don't know if your dad is around.
Yeah.
A resource like it. Do you follow on that resource?
So I've heard a couple times there's a couple cats on here say I'm old school. I guess I am too. Hell, at 48 years old. I will say that I grew up with my dad. I will say unapologetically that I had some as a teenager. I had some pretty early thoughts on what type of father and husband I wanted to be, and right. I'm not ashamed to say that was Heathcliff Huxtable. Most of it, right? I was like, I'm gonna be that cat. I may not be a doctor, but I'm gonna be that cat. That's how That's how my house is gonna pretty much roll, right? Now, I'm not gonna go too far into that. Obviously, he's often the butt of the jokes in every episode, too. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that piece of how he played the part. But I mean, for the most part, 85% of my playbook is straight out of the Cosby Show, unapologetically.
I'm so glad you said that, Jason, because I was also going to say too, that's a lot of us who were latchkey kids whose parents broke up, right? And I think I think the lesson we can take from that is
you said something there.
There's a lot of playbooks out there from which you can kind of choose pieces and parts from, right? Like he mentioned that he went whole, a lot of it Cosby Show. Like there's other places, whether it's I think King was mentioning it, like your community. It could be homeboys, older brothers, people that you kind of know. I think a lot of the times to you guys' point earlier, we don't ask. We don't put ourselves in positions to be vulnerable necessarily. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it might even be therapy, believe it or not, right? Because I low-key feel like it does start, I think somebody else mentioned this, it starts with you, right? I think it was Kevin, it starts with you. So in terms of defining for yourself what's important to you, right? One of the most important things I think I learned early on that really allowed me to turn the corner was that I felt like my wife knew who I was. I was the one tripping, right? Sometimes we be the ones tripping thinking that we got to be something other than who we are, for real, right? Like she's not expecting you to be somebody other else. You know what I'm saying? Like she's not expecting you to be your father, whoever. She's expecting you to be the best version of yourself, maybe, right? I suppose that maybe she just expects for you to try. Right, even if you fail sometimes, right? I expect that maybe as long as you're giving an honest effort and communicating effectively along the way, that maybe that's enough. And I think for me, that's when I realized I was tripping because she knew who I was this entire time. And my discontent was, I guess, not being comfortable with who I was pretending to be. You get what I'm saying? So I would give our wives more credit than we sometimes give them. Right? In terms of them really knowing us for real, and low-key choosing us and loving us for a reason. And so aside from that, within yourself, then it's like, all right, let me see what worked over here or what aligns with my core beliefs and values, right? I can see why Jason and many of us gravitated to the Cosbys because a lot of that was proper. It was wholesome. It was positive. You know what I'm saying? Despite the jokes. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like sometimes as a man, you might say like Heathcliff was whatever, but there is when somebody asked me about my relationship, I was going to say I rule with the velvet glove. That was the first thing that came to mind, right? Because sometimes we feel like we got to rule with an iron fist. No, my brother. Like sometimes words are even sharper than any knife could ever be. So because as men, we're supposed to be stoic. We get cut with them shits all the time and we ain't got no tools to fight back, right? Which adds to the frustration. So we got to get out of that shit, bro. We gotta recognize that words are fucking powerful. Sometimes even more powerful than anything else that you can do. So yes, you can use it as a tool to communicate your side of things too. You know what I mean? And hopefully get some straightening. You know?
I got one more question before I go roll very quick. Matt,
Yeah.
what was your mindset of knowing that, okay, now I'm divorced? What was your mindset on revamping your new relationship now?
Oh, I had to get right with myself. That was the key. That was the biggest piece. I realized that I, in the past, have been giving all of my power away to like my environment and to other things. Because if I do this for you, I'm going to receive this praise and this love that I so deeply require and need without realizing that I had my own self-esteem and self-love issues. So once I was able to really figure that out, was in therapy heavy, then I got diagnosed with ADHD and was able to start working through that and was able to work through the anxiety, through like the depression and all those things. I think it just woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really woke up on the other side that I had heard about from a lot of other divorced men from different groups that I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt renewed, man. And so with that being said, I also found out what was important to me. The
Mhm.
things that I require, what I need in a relationship, and all the things that I need are important. And I think the other piece too is, I remember back in the day, before my first marriage, an older brother was telling me about like the 80-20 rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like as long as you get 80% of the things you need and the 20% of the stuff, it's not a big deal. But the thing about it is nobody ever tells you how to prioritize what's in the 80 and what's in the 20. So I had stuff in the 80 and stuff in the 20. The problem was a lot of the stuff that was in the 20 was actually really important to me, but I just didn't realize it at the time.
Mhm.
So I keep thinking I'm 80-20, but why am I so unhappy? It's because I didn't prioritize a lot of the things that made me happy, that were in that 20 bucket that needed to be over here.
Yeah.
Because had it been over here, then we wouldn't have been, you know what I'm saying, in this situation.
Gotcha.
And so now that I know, I was able to find somebody who matched and aligned with everything that I had.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's really, and so the goal is now to continue to like grow and evolve together.
Mhm.
And to make sure our goals and the things that we want to achieve in life continue to evolve together. How have you all been able to do that in y'all's relationships? I know my wife and I we've got some businesses that we've already started going on. I got this podcast going on. She's got some of the stuff she's already started working on together. How have you all been able to stay in line with that, with each other?
Prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, we try. We're both like very busy individuals in our careers, and with two children that are very active. So I think what helps us is just being able to have time together. We've been talking for years about doing business. Starting a business. We got. I think right now we're at a point now where we're like, we're not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to do it. We even talked about doing a podcast together in the same room. She has a desk right over here. And discovering this tool, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And we can talk about marriage, real estate, all kind of things. And go to bed happy.
I really can.
Yeah, we can. And so I think we really enjoy like deep conversations with each other. And having that time and space to do that. And one conversation we had recently was about like I was just challenging her on how she was raised to look at men as husbands. I was getting like for convenience. You're supposed to make my life easier. Like I think the women in your life grew up thinking, husband is supposed to make my life easier. I said, so I brought it back to the Bible when we went to marriage counseling. I'm like, who was here and who was sent to help me and who was the helpmate? So, go back to that. I don't think it's about making anybody's life easier. I mean, but like we started going into that realm, which led us to more deeper conversation over dinner, and that's what she's in, and she enjoys that. And so I know her love language is acts of service, and we always tend to focus on that first one. but it's those follow-ups, like, those deep conversations, those gifts that they like, where we can totally, that's the part of the intimacy outside of touch that we often forget about. And so I always have to remind myself, and sometimes I will get a reminder. I may not like to hear it, but I will get that reminder from her and say, you just can't roll over and put your arm on me and think something magic gonna happen. You need to talk to me, you need to communicate.
Yes.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, you're right. But outside, I'm like, whatever, man. I ain't got time for that. I'm tired. Uh,
Right.
but I think it's about, for us, like, spending that time, and we are trying to be more focused on our time together and how we use that time. And I'm all about F these kids, leave them at home, let's go do something. And she's like, involve the kids. So striking that balance where we can accomplish both. Hey, y'all old enough to go run the mall. We're going to go eat and hang out. And so that's what's been working for us, but we're also aspiring to just be more connected in our lives and talk about our business ideas and strategies so that we can maintain that connection.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, how about you? How about you, Jay?
I think we align. We definitely align on the kids. That's one where a lot of decisions we've made over the last 25 years were kind of a really intentional on ways we wanted the kids to be raised and what we wanted to do with them, opportunities we want them to have, things like that, right? So almost I don't like to think of kids as projects, but they really, in a way, kind of are, right? They very much are, and so I think a lot of that we've just been kind of talking about what the playbook is for that. Now, in terms of, you have to know your strengths, in a relationship. What are her strengths? What are mine? I think we don't equally bring the same things to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean specifically by that is, you know, being able to kind of look at the short-term issues as well as the long-term, what's important, and then say, oh, wait, we need a break. We ain't taking one in like 6 months. We need to take a trip or things like that. That's how I'm wired to think. I don't know that my wife is necessarily thinking that. She doesn't necessarily default to thinking that way. So, great example, like, anniversaries, we kind of have a system for that. But like, in terms of like big ones where I'm like, oh, wait, this is like the Big 10 or the Big 15, something like that. I will think about that a year out and I will plan that a year out. And I did do that. Big 25, I planned the cruise and all that stuff. And that is kind of how I default, because I know that those things are very important in my language for sure. And I knew that was something that ultimately, if we did it, it would be appreciated on both sides and we would have a great time. But I knew that I probably would have to take the initiative, because that's something that I know that's my strength. And that's what I bring to the table. There are other things she brings, which are useful as well. But in terms of things we do together, I think the biggest ones now, it's the kids. And when that's not around, I mean, I don't know that work projects would necessarily be a thing we do. We do have a business together that she's basically taken over since I've kind of taken my current role. But we've had businesses that we've kind of done together that my hat's off if you've pulled that off. It was very stressful for us to do. We worked full time together before I was in this role, and it was stressful. I mean, in the good times, we went out, we had dinners, it was awesome, yeah. Everything was great. But a business has ups and downs, especially a small business. And when things are bad, you're like, oh, this is stressful and very, very bad. And now the only other coworker is your spouse. That makes it a lot harder, right? Because you can be rational, but sometimes small businesses and the attitudes that kind of go on are not rational.
Yeah.
And so, emotions get all crazy and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's probably better that we don't work together now. But there are plenty of other areas where we come together.
As far as time, it's funny. Somebody said time and space, and that's what I was kind of thinking to myself, because like you'll go through like different patches or different seasons, as they say, right? So you might go through a busy season where you guys are ripping and running, and you maybe only have 20% of time to spend together. I find that sometimes in those moments, if you're intentional a certain type of way and really are keyed in on what's important to you, you can maximize those 20% of moments that you have together in ways that most people probably aren't the other 80. That's why I love what you said earlier before, Matt, because what people will do is they'll put the things in that 80 that they're supposed to, right? Yeah, but you might want something else that, ooh, you're not supposed to want that, or you're not supposed to prioritize it, right? You may have the same four
Yep.
things, but you put more weight on these
Yeah.
four things. Meanwhile, you put less on those four. So I think one of the things I've learned to do is that through the different flows, we stay connected, right? There's a set foundation of us tapping in consistently. In the 20 plus years, there has been a set foundation of us tapping in consistently, right? Which encompasses the communication, which encompasses the chemistry, which encompasses the intimacy. And that kind of set the tone, I think. And then because of that, we communicate well. We're like best of friends too, right? So if I'm going through whatever, I can chop it up with her. You know what I mean? So in the moments where, especially like after the pandemic, for example, we were both working from home. She got her space, I have mine, and then we chop it up. I go downstairs for a little lunch or whatever. So I think being able to cultivate that separation time too, because that's important. Like the idea of missing you enough to want to come back and be around you sometimes. So I think finding that really nice balance in real time, but also over either long or short periods of time where it's like, all right, this is what, the type of time we're on. And so that's kind of how we've been able to do that. And so it doesn't matter how it shows up. Like one of the fun things that we love doing is family night, we just be on the couch watching some, binge watching. That's it. You know what I'm saying? We get at least one of those a week, you know what I'm saying? A couple of, and that is the world to all three of us because our son would be sitting there, he'd be, joining us. And so to me, it's like, that might sound boring to somebody else, but to me, it's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is great. We're in our own little world. So I just think it's all about like how you can. They say time is a construct, right? If you're going to go down that rabbit hole, right? So if that's the case, we get a chance to, I think, redefine what time looks like and how much we spend and how much we appreciate it. Let me say it that way. And the last thing I'll say too is gratitude. Gratitude is huge, man. Like if you grew up poor and you had to worry about having food and stuff like that, and you forgot that enough to not be grateful every day that you don't have to do that, or that your kids don't have to do that, or that you get a chance to like buy whatever you want, or them joys that you want to have. Like for me, gratitude is so huge that like it's like an instant reason to wake up joyous, low key, right? And then you, let alone because you're counting the things you're joyful for, right? And so for me, that spills out. You know what I mean? So as much as I could be one way in terms of like my sternness, trust and believe, like I'm a big teddy bear. You know what I'm saying? Because I have so much joy in my heart for the way that I wake up. No, dead ass. I am dead ass. Like I feel like gratitude is such an underrated kernel, I think, of existence, right? Towards like some type of contentment and joy in life, for real, for real. You know what I mean? Because it starts with a certain perspective. And so for me, the fact that I have so much to be thankful for, it starts there. And so that kind of, you know what I mean? I'm slapping her on the ass, just passing by on a whimmy. It's like, and so that little small deposit that you make, it pays so much more dividends. Like we don't even do like the holidays no more, for real. You know what I'm saying? At some point in time, it was like undeniable these deposits that were being made. And then it just kind of felt like we were being corny for going to the spots like everybody else, waiting at restaurants for what? Because we had to prove something that day?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you can't pull that off if you're not making those small investments. You know what I'm saying? You got to constantly build up enough of a deposit to be able to pull that off. And so we don't do that shit no more. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. That's how we kind of just everyday, regular, boring shit. You know what I'm saying? Talking about what we got planning to do, looking at the kid, you know what I'm saying? How you did this school today. I love all that shit, bro. Boring ass shit.
And it's interesting how you say that, Nick, because that's what some people say is the reason that more married people don't necessarily speak so loudly about marriage, is because a lot of it is routine. Some would deem it boring, right? If you compare it to somebody who's single, who may have, not that, single people don't have routines, but they may not have an understanding of what that looks like. And so in order to escape being like judged, right? Because social media, we know how social media is these days. A lot of folks kind of keep that to themselves. But, I personally, like, we love it. We love that simple life, laying in bed together, talking, joking, cracking up, simple things like that. Binge watching the shows and all that kind of stuff. Like, I absolutely agree with you on that. And it's great to hear from you all that those types of things, as well as the family, the children, these are the things that kind of keep you grounded and keep your goals and you all as a couple evolving kind of together. And sometimes evolving together can also be that we don't necessarily have projects or work things that we do together. Sometimes evolving also understands that we have two completely separate things going on.
Yep.
And that's okay. Because we've evolved and understood that for us, that works wonderfully. You know what I'm saying? And so again, it's a really good, example of how the marriage really is what you make it, or what the energy and the effort is that you put into it.
Yeah, I almost think that spills into your question about the dreams thing. I don't know if you were going to go there, but I'm curious. I won't go there first, but I mean, because I have a lot to say on it. But
Please go for it.
I am curious though for the group because you guys think about things. We all think about this a little bit different. I can tell already. But when you have dreams and your spouse is a different person, so naturally they will not necessarily have your same dreams. When they dream differently or just in a different way, how do you guys, how do you manage that? Or do you manage that? How does that work?
Wait, women dream? Women have dreams? Oh, you married a woman with dreams?
bruh.
He's gonna use that one as a clip.
What'd you say?
That's a clickbait clip right there.
You've married a woman with dreams? What kind of dreams she had? How big are her dreams?
Right.
No, dead ass. Like because because I remember like when I was in college, right? I was dating a young lady, and she had the aspirations of maybe even being a U.S. senator, right? We both were like on the same. We came in the same year, graduated around the same time, but she was really on her shit, so she probably graduated like a semester or two before I did. So she was out in the world in D.C. just getting it. What I quickly realized was, what does that look like for me as a husband in terms of both of us being outside that level of ambition, or that level of ambitious, for example. And I saw it play out both, and like we both ran for the same office. Let me give you that as an example, right? Like literally, we were both running for the Black Student Union at a major PW, situation. So that just, before we kind of got into the relationship, that was like how we dated or courted. She beat me, by the way. So anyway, but my point is that taught me that as a man, I have to be intentional in regards to what I feel like I need from a partner. Now, that's like U.S. Senator ambition, right? Does that mean it can't be, CFO ambition? Does it mean it can't be principal ambition? Does it mean that so what I'm saying is there's different levels of ambition, you know what I'm saying? Or dreams. Like for me, I'm a dream chaser. So I want to support your dream. Most people I meet, and King can tell you this, because even doing a podcast for me was I extended like, hey, bro, what you want to do? I am here to support. So I am a dream chaser. I'm also a dream, hopefully builder maybe, or a dream nourisher or whatever. So I wouldn't marry someone and not like support their dreams. But I am positing though that we, knowing ourselves and what we desire or need, I would hope that part of that dream is to be a wife that's also a mother. Part of that dream would also understand maybe some of the sacrifices, maybe if you want to call it that the dream of one may take you versus the other, right? Because some women may not even see being a mom as a dream, right? So we got to both be very mindful of, again, what we truly desire. Like for me, I was touch and go on the kid thing, bro. So I didn't have a kid till late. So that kind of worked for both of us. It was like, all right, cool, I'll flex you on this. But the truth is, some people are not. So you got to be very clear about your dreams, where your dreams are going to take you, the decisions is going to help, help put upon you. And as a man, we got to do that, right? And then we hopefully got to do, include that in how we choose a woman. And I'm thankful that I was on that type of time back then. I don't know that I instinctively just knew it. I had this dream. I didn't know where it was going to take me. And so I was looking for someone that would support that in her way. And so I support what my wife does. But yeah, in fact, I'll land with this too. She knows, and she knew, even when she met me, that she'd be number two. Like my ambitions still today, and even back then, was so large that she understood, even till this day, that she'd be number two. Doesn't mean I love her any less. It just means that I had a certain purpose. And it's weird that we talk about that so much in this space. This was like 25, however many years ago. So I was that young kid who wanted to be like the next Russell Simmons or some shit like that, right? And because of that, I knew I had to find somebody who would align with that. So when you meet a young woman whose father was a bishop, whose father showed leadership, and you see a mother in the home who was supportive, and a first lady who held it down her own right in terms of her position in fighting for civil rights and their come up, you're like, oh shit, she saw this shit before. So yeah, let me go ahead and bag this one real quick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it kind of worked out that way.
So because she saw that growing up with her father in terms of him following his purpose and being a leader of so many, that's how she was able to,
I would even posit.
Because, you know, that is not a normal situation in the slacks.
I would even.
A 27-year-old woman being willing and knowing off rip in her mid-20s that she's going to be number 2. But after
that's tough.
Well, framing is everything, right? I mean,
That's what I'm saying. How you think I set up?
I met my wife in college. It's a framing thing. I don't know. I don't know that I would frame it that. So, okay, give you an example.
Framing.
So I went. It's framing though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In a way, because I don't know that I would necessarily frame it that, you know, I would never tell my wife she's number 2, but you know, okay, back in the day, so my wife and I went to college together. So I'm in a fraternity. Matt, we're in the same fraternity.
Me 3.
Okay, we're all in that together.
We're all look at that. Is that coincidence?
And
look at that.
I was trying to figure out how I was going to throw it in there, but
hey, it was going to happen eventually, right? But you know, so when I met my wife senior year at university, and I was chapter president at the time. And so when she met me, you know, you're chapter president, you're a senior, you kind of feeling yourself, right? That's just the life. Yeah, that is the life. It doesn't matter what org. You're feeling yourself as a senior anyway. And then I was chapter president. It all went to the head, right? So, because best fraternity in the world. So,
naturally,
it really is. So then, you know, we met then and we started dating while I was kind of in that headspace, right? So, I mean, we continued to date. We ended up getting married later down the line. But I think the framing, getting back to where we were, is that she already, you would have to have known in dating me and ultimately marrying someone like me, you would have to know that, you know, obviously I'm an ambitious cat. Obviously, you know, I'm not just going to be a member of orgs that I join or any job I have. I'm going to be an officer probably in that mug. I'm probably going to be, you know, I'm not going to be like just, you know, janitor. Or mailroom. I'm probably eventually going to be a VP or some shit, right? Like that's how I'm wired. I was wired that way in college. It shouldn't be a shock to you later. So know that that's who you're with. And it was like, that's why I say framing, because I would never still say, well, you know, based on the fact that I'm like president of like 5 orgs and like secretary in another one and like VP at the gig and all this and that and that and you know, trustee of my church. I still would say all of that and she would know that's happening, but I still would never necessarily say now reality.
Hey, but Jason,
I was coming to Jackson.
I would never say you're second because in my mind, it's like, look, my wife she's number 1. It is what it is. And I would really quit some of those orgs if she was like, look, you're doing too much. I need you to really let some of that go. I would.
But hold on, but Jason, let me ask you this though, right? Because if you were to reframe it and say, you know, we're all given purpose from God, right? And I think I've heard most people who are God-fearing position God as first, then husband, then wife, and so forth, right? Am I missing that order? Am I incorrect there? Okay,
you're right.
So who cares how I frame it, right? Because if that woman believes in you and believes that you are following a path that you have been, or you know, blessed upon from the Lord, then why would she not understand her position in that pecking order and take offense to that, right? Like, because I didn't say anything about no organization.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
No, you didn't.
I'm saying for me, right? I'm talking about what life has called me to do and be, like this thing that burns within you, right? That whether it's God's calling or whatever. So that's where I'm speaking from. I think for her, she hears it that way, right? On a pod, you frame it a different way. I'm not the most religious person, so I'm not going to I don't have to stand on that to still get it off. But like how I move, how I've consistently been, how I've been even back then, she's seen, she understands, and she accepts, right? And I feel like...
So you're saying whatever those ambitious efforts are, whether it's political, whatever it is, right? You're saying that ambition comes first before how you live as a husband?
Everything. Every decision that I have made, including her, was in the prism of my life's purpose. Every
Okay.
one of them. Who she is. That's what I was saying to King earlier. Like when I saw her parents and I saw like, wow, it was like, it was ordained. It was like, this is perfect because she's already seeing what it like, because you got to imagine what the role is for a pastor. They're not out there
Yeah.
making a lot of money necessarily. He was a teacher and educator at a public school, and he was a pastor. So it wasn't like they had the most affluent upbringing, but what he did have though was his command, you know what I'm saying, who he was in the community, the impact that he had. So I think seeing a man led through purpose is a lot easier to identify one,
Right.
right? And then seeing a
Okay.
mother who it was in purpose of that, because all of them were, when they all went to church together, guess what? They were in the purpose of their father under the purpose that he was serving for the Lord. So they all had to go to church and be a part of that. You get what
Submit
I'm
unto
saying?
him. Yeah.
And
So-
it's such a story that we're not used to hearing that it sounds foreign.
which
Because
one?
Yeah.
Which
you
part?
said, well, a woman who was raised with a father who was not only present but had such a purpose that it was paramount, and the entire family followed it. And she now, as a grown woman, didn't look at it or call it slavery. She
Right.
said, what you said was key just now.
Mhm.
She grew up seeing a man on purpose, so that therefore made it so much easier for her to identify a young man
Mhm.
who had purpose as well. Whether he had achieved all of that, right?
Mhm.
She still saw. And so I think that is a huge missing piece in
Yeah.
most of the fabric of today's society, where people have not necessarily seen, especially in our age ranges between Kelvin, you're around like 42,
42.
up
Yeah.
to right, up to Jason and Nick who are 48ish.
I'm 48, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same,
both
same.
48. And so, and me being 44, we came up in that time literally of the height in America of the single mother,
Hmm.
Yeah.
epidemic situation. Like they called it the epidemic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not used to hearing women in that age range talk about having a father is one thing. Having a father in the household is another thing. Having an active father, and then you're telling me an active father on a purpose and a mission that the entire family followed? No, it's not a common.
Well, let me be
It's
clear.
not a common conversation piece these days with actual examples. People talk about it like,
Yeah.
in theory. You hear the social media pundits, especially the women who are like, a man who was on his purpose, and this is what it looks like. But they don't necessarily pull from. This
Yeah.
is my aspect.
Well,
But
let
I
me
think
clarify.
that challenge is more in our community than it is our counterparts, right? Because you have, white men who go to work. Their work is their purpose. They bring
Yeah.
home the bacon, and their wife makes the dinner, and everything falls behind. Like work is here, and everybody else is here.
Yeah.
So
Well, I gotta push back a little bit, right? Well, first I gotta clear it up. It's hard to be in your purpose at a certain level and be present. So I don't want to necessarily
true.
make it seem like he was both in that purpose. And you said present because there were times he was not. Maybe his presence was felt because they all had to go to church. But when you're working like that, both on the education front and as well as within the church, like, bro, you outside, like you're tending to your people, right? You're doing God's
Yeah,
work. So
right,
you're not going to always
absolutely.
be present. Now, I want to also push back a little bit because, first of all, if all of us are alphas, for example, then I know that when we were in college, we had the pick of the litter. Let's be clear. We could have found many of women who moved whatever kind of way because PKs were out there abundantly, whatever, right? So let's be clear. I think part of the thing I always am grateful for, and I say this because I don't want to sound, I'm not arrogant about it. I'm thankful that I was aware of myself enough then, aware of my truth or my desires to the type of man I want, whatever that thing was. I was aware enough then to also spot like a person that could complement it. So when I found her, when I saw her,
Right.
I was also wise enough to make it work, to like not let her slip through my hands. I've seen so many bros from college who let the one that got away. I was not gonna let that happen. I was fortunate enough because I paid attention. I remember back then when I saw her parents, how many of us pay attention to the parents and say, oh, how their movie may be a blueprint. Matt, you mentioned, how many of them grow. Well, bruh, whatever you saw, you still can determine whether or not that's for you. Like what she was for me. So that worked out. There may be a version of a woman who's more independent. That's not for me. That's for the next person. That person has to know themselves well enough and then identify the thing within the woman that they want and hope like hell that they were clear-eyed enough to see the truth. So many of us, when we get in some of these relationships out of obligation, because we think we love, I was very thoughtful and intentional about the things that I saw within her because I was very thoughtful and intentional about the things I wanted for my life. Right? I
I
knew
agree.
I was going to be
Right. So
on that
Yeah,
chase,
what
use that
taught
bro.
you
word
that
there.
though? What taught you that level of intention for your life?
Suicide.
Oh,
Right?
damn.
Okay.
Because when I was 13, right, my life was shit. I was poor for the most part. You know, we grew up, our family's from Haiti, right? So imagine like in the time that we grew up, you know, in the neighborhood that we probably did, not having a lot of money, etc. Parents was divorced, you know what I mean? Mom Dukes wasn't really there. Shit was a little bleak. And I remember sitting on a roof, either thinking about running away and fucking, you know, probably just jumping off that bitch. But I swear to God that I heard like a voice or some inclination that I was supposed to do some great shit in life. You get what I'm saying? That was all it really fucking took. You know, hey, just be patient, my dude. You know what I mean? You're gonna get old enough to get you a job. You're gonna old enough to do some things. And eventually, once you're 18, you can start to chart your own path. And that's exactly what the fuck I did. And that desire was my origin story. And everything else falls in line with that. So I just kind of felt like when I hear guys today talk about being in your purpose, I can understand how important it is for young men to try to find that early enough in their lives, because that helps to define your motivation, your drive, the things that you prioritize. And then I think it should also help to inform you on finding the type of woman who will support that, right? Who will be a complement to that. Because ain't nothing worse than being with somebody who don't support who the fuck you really are for real, because that's a no-go. Like imagine you in a relationship and you wake up and you realize that, hey, I want to be this. And she looking at you like Angela was looking at Ghost. That was it, Angela? What's the black chick? Like Tasha was looking at Ghost like, what? You want to be a legal business person? You know what I'm saying? What kind of bitch ass nigga are you? Like, what the, you know what I'm saying? Like, if the fact, just using that as obviously a story, but if he could have just been who he was, his whole thing would have been different. So many of us end up being what other people want us to be and find ourselves in relationships that don't suit us, and we're wondering why it don't work. That's my saving grace. I swear to God, because we went through our ups and downs, and I feel like if Nick, I was,
that's huge. Why I said that. That's why I disagreed with what you were saying before. Because you were saying if we're able to, and we hope that the person that we've chosen is somebody who's able to support these goals and these desires that we have. Hope, absolutely. When I went through my vetting process the first time, people thought I was crazy with how meticulous I was being. They were like, yo, you're doing a lot. We're trying to figure out. I was like, listen, I want to be a husband. I need a wife. These are the things I know that I need. This is how I'm looking at it. Like I was very, but you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know that I was also choosing from a picker that was based off of trauma. I know it's the buzzword, but it's true. And so then you end up choosing I say, ended up choosing someone who is a great person, a good person, a great mother, you know what I'm saying? And still mutual respect for one another. So I think that's important, but was not the lifelong. And I think that I used to look down on myself in a way for that, right? Because it didn't end up working out. But then I also think to myself, this is how my mind works. I was like, well, I was definitely right about the mother part. She's going to be a good wife to somebody. It's just not me. She got a good character. I'm happy that my kids get to, like, I'm not. So now it's like, okay, so my shit wasn't really, like, it was often, but it was still, you know what I mean? And that helped me, because then as I was recalibrating, I was like, okay, I really just need to fix these things. But I'm good at finding women who have good character. You know what I'm saying? And now we just have to match in terms of alignment. And so that's the only reason why I gave pushback, is because I just feel like your level of conviction, which now that you're telling more of your story, right, of being 13, being in Haiti, being poor, not having, you know.
I wasn't in Haiti now. I wasn't in Haiti now. I'm just saying we grew up. I was from a Haitian household. I was from
Haitian household. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem more bleak than what it was. We were living. Grew up in West Palm.
It's not even about that. But I think there's a certain level of independent thought and mindset that you had at 13, right? That gave you a certain spirit that clearly was already in there, right? But it was just part of your journey. And I honestly, every time we talked about it, and when you told me how you and your wife got together, I've always just been like, man, that's so awesome that you were so convicted and that it ended up working out so well for you. And then as you got, all three of you have been sitting here talking, I realized all three of you got with your wives when you were very young. Actually, right?
Yeah.
Because you were relatively young, right? You were
I think I was married at 27.
right.
Yeah.
And Jason, I've seen the
23.
old school pictures of you.
Yeah, 23. So
Yeah, I was
Right.
27
Exactly.
also. Yeah. Oh,
Right, exactly. So that's interesting, actually. I didn't realize that when I asked y'all to come and speak today.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how all of y'all have really gotten with y'all lives since your 20s, because your demographic of people actually, men want to hear from. Actually, now that I think about it, because y'all's years, the 15s, the 20s, the 25s, is actually demographically right now the numbers where people divorce the most.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Outside of like the first few years after you have kids, you know,
Yeah.
like year 5,
Mhm.
and that there's the
Yeah.
8-year curse, if you will. But
Which is crazy.
it is
It
crazy.
I
is.
feel like
It
I
is.
haven't even we haven't even hit the prime yet. Like we just getting started.
See, that's a perspective that we never hear. That we never
Yeah.
hear often. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you're saying that. You
Yeah.
want to build on that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, like you spent so many of the early years like figuring each other out. No matter how long you date, right? When you get married, you got the whole thing. Like there's no return policy.
Right.
And so, we got married, moved to New York right away. Actually, days before our wedding. Pregnant 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, life just took off, right? And so life was just all over the place for several years between us trying to find our careers, like in
Yeah.
March, right? Now you're talking about raising a family, trying to, save money to buy a home, so you can build your family. And by the time you get to do the first part of those things, you're 5 years in, right?
Right.
And
Before you know it.
Yeah.
you're still
Mhm.
trying to figure each other out and learn what this marriage thing is about. And so, like, year 15 is like, we're so invested right now. And like I said, there's some things we want to do together we haven't had the time to do that we're making the time to do. And when we get together to do those things, like, imagine how much magic can happen, because like you're
Yeah.
working. I get to go. I will get to work with my best friend and the person I know and trust the most around me, right? And so the purpose is different. So me being 42, married 15 years, I don't even think professionally I've hit like that peak or that prime. Like
Sure.
I'm still like I'm getting there. Like I better watch out, right? And and so and when Nick was talking, I could see before he even used the word joy. I'm like, this brother's got a lot of joy in his marriage, right? But you're a year 25,
no, 20.
20,
20. We
right?
hit 20, yeah.
So I was thinking like, damn, what's it gonna be like for me a year 20? I want to have that same joy, right?
Yeah.
Right? And
You
so
better know.
you just aspire because you only get better the
Absolutely.
longer you're together, right?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Like you only you don't go backwards. Like, and we as alpha men, we don't believe in taking
Right.
backward steps, right?
Facts.
So it'll get challenging. The challenges are for us to grow through that next stage, right? It's time to go to the new level of Mario Brothers. It's gonna be a little harder than the last level.
Yeah.
But that means because you're growing together.
And I was going to say this too, like, I'm not even the most religious person, but I feel like I live my life a certain type of way, because faith is an important thing. But like, if you consistently move in a walk and then you get rewarded for it and it kind of builds your faith, I feel like it's like you're creating your own luck, or you're creating your own like magic in your situation, right? So because like 5 years in, bro, it was on about 4 years in, it was on thin ice. You know what I'm saying? It was super thin ice, right? So when I say I'm fortunate, it's because looking back on it, had we went down a certain path, knowing what I know, of course, now, oh my God, it would have been the biggest regret of my life, right? In fact, now because I'm actually living it, it's one of the greatest decisions of my life, because it allowed us to work through some things together and continue to evolve. And then you realize, like, sometimes, man, like, life is gonna life, bro. Like, it's so I do appreciate how fortunate I am, but I say that to say this: if when we were in those times, my thought is that as long as I do all that I can to show up the best way that I can, whatever happens is out of my hands, right? We're gonna go through this counseling, we're gonna go through whatever, because I didn't necessarily think of divorce as failure, right? In the sense that, like, life is gonna life. The only thing that we can do is show up the best way that we can, right? And then hope for the best. And it just so happened to work out that way. I think, unfortunately, because so many of us go through that, it disheartens others from going through their own experience. And like, that doesn't have to be everybody's experience, nor does it have to be the failure that we think that it is. Sometimes maybe the best, like I even joke now, like, bro, 20 years, if something were to happen and we got divorced, so many people look at that as a failure. You gotta be fucking shitting me. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if my first 4 was crazy, I had a great 16. The fuck are we talking about? Fucking memories, experiences, children. You know, we done came up together. We're better off financially. I'd rather go through these 20 and then it don't work out, because it was been a fantastic 15. 75% of it has been fire, right? And some people be so scared of, well, what if it don't work out? And all I'm just simply saying is like, you can't be focused on those things when you're talking about encouraging young people.
No.
And because I think sometimes in the fear of that, you don't act in the way that's going to lead to the outcome that you want. Right? It's almost like walking down a pair of some stairs, afraid you're going to trip. As soon as you start thinking about it, what's going to happen? You're going to trip, because you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to trip, versus, hey, I'm going to walk down these stairs because this is what I have to do. This is part of what it has to be, right? And walking in that way. And the more you do it over time, the more confidence you build. And the more confidence you build, it's like it kind of becomes this thing. Once we broke through, bro, it was just like this. Is that the concentric circle? I forgot how you say it. Where you just constantly expanding on each other, right? Because you have a system or a wheel in place that you can kind of build in. And I just think people can find that for themselves if they allow themselves to first be themselves and then find the one that complements them truthfully, right? Not the, she's cute, she got a fat ass, or she got a good job. Yeah. Like, none of those things matter. Like, does she like your shit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do those puzzle pieces fit good? Right? Yeah. People want to find people that's alike. Nah, bruh. Find somebody who compliments you. Like, just fits good with you. They don't gotta like all the same shit. We're both different, bro. But when we come together, it's like, it makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. You hit 2 things that I think we didn't hit before, but I want to kind of unravel a little bit, just for me, how it worked out for me. I mean, one, faith, we didn't really talk a lot about that, but I mean, that's a big one for me, at least. And I would say for, wherever your commonality, you find it in your relationship and make that work. If that's like the rock that you guys both can kind of cling to, I think then run with that. And I think then you at least have that, and that you always can go to that. For us, we both are Christian. We both, we're Christians, and we have a very strong faith. We had that before we got together. So that was something I was looking for specifically. Like, not everybody does, but I was absolutely looking for that in a mate. If you weren't even on my list. You weren't on my radar. That was extremely important. And that is something that over the 25 years, arguments happen, a lot of things can happen, but we come back to that. That's where it's like, okay, at the basis of, I can't possibly see where she's going with this, but like, wait, okay. On a fundamental level, our faith is here. And so we can always come back to that. That's always like kind of a rock thing. Second thing I'll say is, although we were young, and we were both 23 when we got married, we purposely didn't have kids until a lot later in the game. We waited 9 years before we had kids, which was a huge gamble, a massive gamble. Because I mean, we could have like woke up and realized, we can't have kids. And I mean, that happens. That's a very real reality for a lot of folks. But we waited 9 and then had kids intentionally. And that was the best decision, because that 9 years, I'm not saying it was pretty. It wasn't all pretty. But that 9 years, I got to know who that person was, in the bed with me, and she got to know who I was. And so when you complicate that, and I will go there, when you complicate that with with kids and parenting, and anyone who follows me, anyone who knows me knows I love being a dad. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But she knows me on a level that is separate from that. So although being a dad is very much part of my identity, I'll probably buy that shirt that Matt's wearing, very, very much part of my DNA. But who I am on a level, who is Jason, and the things I do, the things I care about, who I am as a person, she got 9 years to really just spend time with that person, get to know me. So that's why, I think a lot of this stuff works, because, before it got messy, before, jobs and all that, she knows that cat,
Jason, I think that you just helped me realize, before I ask you guys the last question before we close out, you definitely, we're going to have this conversation again because, again, I'm realizing you and Nick both had kids after a significant amount of time. Now, Nick waited, even longer, but there's something about getting married, having a significant time together
It's
to really
huge.
establish, because typically when people talk about waiting to have kids, they're talking about waiting like maybe 2 years,
Yeah,
3 years,
yeah,
maybe traditionally, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And you waited 9 years, man. So you took from 23 to 32, essentially, right? And so now you took
Yeah.
9. You guys really got
Puts you at a
to,
completely different maturity level. Because how
yeah,
are you
it's just
thinking at
completely different.
23 versus
And you're not
yeah,
struggling in the same way, like
that part too.
financially,
Yeah.
and you're also in the military, right? You're
No,
military or no?
whoa, no. Wasn't
Okay, I
military.
thought you were.
Nah.
So yeah, so financially you're doing your thing. I mean, well, doing way better at 32 than 23. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
Right.
And so,
Facts.
those things do make a difference. I think we're definitely going to have that conversation, at another time. Because like Kelvin said, he's married 4 months in. Boom. So
yeah,
marriage for you has always been kids.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And so I definitely think that is an interesting
yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I
Now,
mean?
on the flip end, Kelvin's kid, I would assume they grown.
Yeah,
And just
14 and
something,
12.
oh, no, I'm sorry. But like, if I had done the same thing at my
Yeah.
if at my stage, my kids would be grown. And so I'd be
Yes.
at a very,
Yes.
very different stage right now, figuring out what that looks like. And at some point, God willing, my kids will be grown and it'll
Yeah.
just be me and
Right.
my wife. And we will figure out what that stage looks like,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That'll be
Exactly.
a whole different game.
Yeah.
But I
Right.
do definitely appreciate that. And we should definitely, that's a whole nother conversation, I think.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah, for sure.
me being our brother out on that one, I actually the advice I give to brothers now is like, hey, be married for a little bit. Like, we didn't plan to have kids. It just, we were just young, married, living in New York City in a tight apartment. Just so
Stuff
when you don't got a
happens.
lot of money in New York City in a tight apartment, you just gotta, be each other's best company.
Hey,
Absolutely.
And
it happens. Hey.
the blessings happen, and what I do enjoy, I'm the most risk adverse person between us. My wife will take a risk. She'll quit a job tomorrow and be like, "You figure it out." Me, I gotta think plan. In the course of our marriage through those years, like things happen. Oh, we pregnant. I want to move back home to DC. Okay, well, let me get you an apartment, cancel the lease, and figure it out. So I learned to be more spontaneous and kind of be more, I wouldn't say trusting or faithful, but have more faith and
Mhm.
things will work out. Even though I always tell myself that, but
Yeah.
like I had to demonstrate it.
I mean, really, it's you have more faith in yourself, to be honest, Kelvin.
Yeah, and
Really, when you think about it.
things worked out.
Yeah.
Times got a little uncomfortable, but it was never in a situation where we were begging, asking for help. Like, right. And so we really grew through the challenges of being young. And she's a few years older than me, 4 years older than me, but being young, married, and now bringing in, children into the world.
Right.
But for me, in the backside of my head, I was like, I didn't want to be an old dad either. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
35 having
Not too
kids
much
trying
on
to,
us.
yeah.
Thank you.
But well, and I grew up as an athlete, so I was like, I want to play outside and run with my kids with good knees and da 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 da. Yeah. So, but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back and do it over because I value the journey that I went through. But if I can tell, like, if I was telling my son, I would say, give yourself some time. Like,
Oh,
learn your spouse, enjoy it, travel, And I always bring things back to money. It's better to pay for 2 seats than for 4.
amen. Pick that up.
So, take those trips
Yeah.
and experience the world together, and then bring your kid, have your kids and do it all over again with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great transition, actually, to the last question, to the closeout. And, I want to thank you all for everything that you shared. Jason, I just realized, I remember seeing you in a uniform, but it was actually a martial arts uniform.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, that's right. Martial artists. That's right. And so my bad. But yeah, so what's one piece of marriage advice that you would give? Kelvin just gave his, which I think is great, in terms of being married and enjoying your spouse for a time. To Jason and Nick, what's one piece of marital advice that you would provide?
Oh wow.
Mhm.
I would say make it your own, man. There are so many different things that are influencing people's opinions about each other. The gender war, bro, you only need one, right? Like, I hate that young men don't feel confident enough to walk to young ladies anymore, like in public and in real life. Like, I think,
No, they still do that. They still do that. They
well,
still do
some, right? No, because
that. Yeah.
I do think there are a large number of brothers who aren't anymore
Yeah,
because
no.
they're
Yeah,
being
there
taught
is
they're
a
not good enough,
big one. Yeah.
like from both men and women. They're telling
Yeah.
these brothers, you're not good enough. Like, oh, this 50-50 conversation. You have to make enough money, bro. I didn't have no money, fam. I just had a dream. I literally got my little financial aid money that it facilitated me being able to move to New York. And I was just going to try to make it happen. I got far enough to where I had my feet on the ground a little bit, had a solid job, and I wanted to marry this girl. You know what I'm saying? We're going to figure this shit the fuck out. I didn't have all the social media. I didn't have all this stuff that was just clouding my judgment. Like, so my advice to young men out there, brothers out there, like, yo, bro, like, find someone that fits you. Fuck everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to marry everybody else. You're not going to fuck everybody else. You're not going to plan a life with everybody else. Nobody else matters but you and the person that you choose to commit yourselves to. And y'all too can figure out what works for y'all and fuck everybody else. There are people out there who might have the best intentions, but their marriage is not your marriage.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Their
Yeah.
needs are not your needs. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just encourage people to just look more inward. You know what I'm saying? If you need to get some therapy or whatever, like find you. Make sure you solid in who you are, not who your mama and them want you to be, just who you are, good and bad. Because then once you can stand on that, then you're likely to find someone who is going to resonate and compliment you and accept you because they can see you for who you are. And hopefully your chances of having a successful relationship will go higher. I'm not going to say it's going to guarantee shit, but I think the better you're able to see yourself, the better you're able to see yourself, I think the better you're able to see others, particularly maybe a significant other. And that's just going to increase the chances that you found somebody that you can actually build with for real, for real. So fuck everybody else, find you, do you, and figure it out for y'all. That would be my last little advice.
I think mine would be.
Thank you for that, Nick, brother Nick.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, mine would be. I'm gonna keep it light because everybody else went real heavy with it. Mine is somebody, man, woman, it doesn't matter. Somebody in the relationship has to be in charge of happiness. It's so understated, and especially with everything going on in the world, it's hard being a black man, black woman in this world. It's hard being human in this damn world right now. There's so many things impacting, on a country stage, on in your family, in your city, in whatever you're dealing with. There's so much that you might be dealing with, your work and all of that. Every day when we all wake up and, you put your armor on and you be who you are in the world. And you go through this thing with your partner and he or she is going through whatever the world looks like, whatever their fight is, right? So everybody's got their shit, right? And I think in a marriage, it's so easy to think about all the things, the complexities that you bring to it, your responsibilities as a man, your responsibility as a woman, as your responsibility as, the breadwinner, whatever that means, and all that. And all these titles and everything that we've got, and all these responsibilities we've got, and all these challenges that the world throws at us, it's very easy to figure out. It's very easy to forget about the fact that happiness is extremely important in a relationship. And if you don't make time for that, if one person doesn't say, hey, I get that you're doing all this, I appreciate you, all this other stuff, but damn it, we're going to go out and we're going to go to this theme park. We're going to go to the state fair. We're going to do this. We're going to just go out for some damn ice cream. We're going to do, I'm going to do this for you. Yeah, maybe it's a beverage. Who knows? Whatever it is, somebody has to prioritize happiness. And if you prioritize happiness, like, I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it is an extremely important thing. And if someone is prioritizing that, And if both of you realize that it's necessary, that's going to go a long way.
I love
That's
that.
all
Man.
I got.
No, I appreciate that. I love that. Definitely, because it will be like, even, with my wife, like, she's done things already where it's like, hey, we need to do this. And we need to, just hang out and relax. You've been working really hard, you know what I mean? Or I'll do the same for her and been like, hey, we haven't been out in a minute. Let's go and have this dinner tonight and stuff like that. So I do think that that's important, that somebody, if not both parties, can keep that at the forefront to always remind you, because I think it's just another, it's just another device, another avenue to help keep the relationship going and to keep it, sound and happiness in that way. And I love.
Well, they're supposed to be your.
Oh,
I mean, in a lot of ways, they're supposed to be. Your other is part of your piece. I'm not saying they're 100% responsible, because that would be like, your partner's not 100%, responsible for your happiness.
Yeah,
that's not true either.
No, not at all.
But they got to contribute to the process, right? And and there should be a conversation about the happiness process that's happening within the marriage. And if there's commitment to that, whether it's from you or her, and hopefully some parts, I won't say equal parts, but if there's parts of that happening between both of you, I think that's going to be very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. It's not right. And I understood what you meant too when you said it, but it's good that you clarified. Because yes, no, your partner is not responsible for your happiness, for sure. But I think just somebody always being able to keep it in mind that we're going to keep this relationship fresh and we're not going to let it get stale. You know what I mean? That's really what I took from what you said. And so I think,
you got it.
Gentlemen, I appreciate y'all, man. It's been almost 2 hours. You guys, you're making me feel like there might need to be a part 2.
Yeah, well, just make the call.
Say less.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel like we got some more questions for one another, some more notes to share. I have several other episodes that are coming up. Next week, I'm actually meeting with the single gentlemen who are going to talk about what's going on in their dating experiences. And all of these men also want to get married, and they're all over 35. So that's even going to be more fun. Because I tell people that, brothers over 35, no kids, not necessarily any long-term relationships in the last 5 years or so. All I tell my female friends is orange flag. Just pay attention and ask questions. Yep. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's a red flag. Just ask questions. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Be cautious.
Just be cautious. Yeah, that's all. Like anybody else. But, and so that's going to be a good talk. And then I'm meeting with the newlyweds. That episode is coming up, as well as the newlyweds and the engaged folks I'm doing together. And so that's going to be a good time to see like where everybody's head is nowadays. And so I'm excited about some of the conversations that we have coming up. And I'm doing one on people or parents with children with learning differences, and special needs, as well as the parents who may have that similar situation. Like I told y'all, I have ADHD. Yep. And so we're going to be having like a really good conversation.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
Yeah, man, around all of that and just how it kind of intersects and comes together. So I appreciate y'all for making this time this evening. Nick, we appreciate all of the entertainment. And
that's why you called me on here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here. Glad I could be of service, my brother. You know how we do.
Shout out to you as well, bro, because you said before earlier in the thing, like you're like, I started my podcast and you told me that you would be there whenever I needed. And you're saying you were hoping that, the way that you move nurtures and encourages and so on and so forth. And it did, because you kept telling me for like a year and a half to just do it. And you had just started yours and you just did it. You know what I mean? And so you did encourage me. So I want to make sure that you take that credit and understand part of the motivation, because you did set that example.
Oh, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. I'm proud of you, bro.
You're actually the first person to introduce me to this app as well.
Yeah, so, listen, man, I'm proud of you. You know what I'm saying? It does start with starting. So kudos to you. I think your heart is pure in terms of the mission that you serve, bro. I can't think of a better person to have these types of conversations. We've been having them for a very long time. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people respect you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're fair, you're balanced, you're thoughtful, and you're open about your own story. And so I think that'll serve you. I continue to be here, my brother. If you need anything, man, holla at your boy. You know I got you. So
I appreciate that.
absolutely.
Do you guys want to announce any projects or anything that you have going on? Kelvin, again, announce, your business, real estate.
Real estate. I got a house to sell. Everybody want to buy it, but hopefully by the time they see it, it's sold. But yeah.
Amen. Yes.
If you're looking to relocate to the DMV, make a move, upgrade, downgrade, mid-grade, give me a call. Hit me on Instagram, Agent Kelvin Harris. Happy to be at your service and give you and provide you concierge level service to make your process easier. I'm here to help you achieve your goals.
And he means it. Concierge service.
Yeah.
That's what's up. For me, company-wise, not really so much, but things are pretty good. But I will say one nonprofit that I'm on the board of that I feel pretty strongly about. Love Takes Root. We run an orphanage and a bakery out of actually in Haiti. So I'm on the board on that. And if you check out lovetakesroot.com, we are there's a need there, and if you can help out, by all means, check out the website and see what stuff we're doing. Love Takes Root. Yep.
That's what's up.
My wife is Haitian, and I know she's gonna want to get involved.
Okay. If you've heard of Jack Mel, we're in operation is out of Jack Mel. So
really, that's where one of my best friends is from.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let him know too. Okay,
that's what's up.
I got some friends close to me that are Haitian, so.
Share the word.
My line brother, including, is one of them.
There's always a couple of us, per line. I'll just say before we get up out of here.
That's true, because one of my
you already know,
there's
a couple of us.
That's true.
Yeah.
Once the 90s hit, we just took over for the 2000s. But I'll just say real briefly, of course, I got to shout out the BLC pod. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
We're actually on off season, but we got a chance to shoot some in-person episodes. We come back in January, but we certainly have. Yeah, we all came down. My co-host S&M Jones, Just Jay, and Delvin. We were all in Atlanta. Shot some amazing episodes. Be dropping some clips from that. Been doing it for about 2 years. And ironically, I feel like we've done it enough that we can help others, which is why I tell you, holla at your boy, because we also have Podding Made Easy. Like literally the site is up. We help others who are interested in elevating their pod cost effectively, but also with support. So definitely doing that, man. So Podding Made Easy. If you look at poddingme.com and also on socials, man. But tap in, bro. And we would love to have you, my brother. We were supposed to have you on the BLC pod. So, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So once we work that out, and I'll even extend to the good brothers too, man. I really enjoyed chopping it up with y'all fellas. Most of the conversations that we have are about black people stuff, relationships, so tap in for sure. But it's been great meeting y'all, man. Thanks for having me, King. You already know what it is.
Absolutely, brother.
Yes,
Thank you. And I bought this microphone here for that BLC pod.
Yeah, we still got to get a couple things together, bro. Holla at your boy. The mic is fire, though. The mic is fire. Don't play. That mic going to take you places.
Every time I looked at it, I was like, I got to do this pod.
Yeah.
I bought this. I got to do that.
Not Alpha buying a microphone. Now you got a microphone chat mic. Oh, no, I didn't. Let me slap.
Nice.
No, great, fellas.
Are you going to drop Nick's links? Are you going to drop that in either the chat or are you going to drop that in the description?
Oh, yeah, I can actually send it to all of you as well.
Yes, sir. Let's connect, y'all. Let's connect.
And again, shout out to the shirt, Dads Are Dope, the fatherhoodcollection.com, Etsy shop.
The father.
Definitely check it out. The link will be in the bio, so you'll be able to check it there. And again, Midas Touch gets you 20% off. And gentlemen, I'll share this information with y'all as well individually. And thank you again. And with that being said, this is Married Divorced Dads Podcast, and we are signing off episode 5. Have a good night.
Peace.